This is Gareth Southgate, and this is the Three Lions podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions podcast. My name is Russell Osborne and this, as you know, is an independent England football supporters podcast. And you join me as I'm on my way to Middlesbrough. Finally, we've got a couple of games to go and watch. I've got my ticket, I've got my shirt, I've got my car parking pass, I've got a negative lateral flow test, which I guess is possibly more important than the ticket. Just hoping for a good journey up. Hoping for a good game, hoping to catch up with some people. Just hoping to have a good day out of the football. And come on. Come along with me. So I'm a couple of hours into this journey. It's got me thinking, kind of reminiscing. Since England started playing on the road, basically I guess when the old Wembley was knocked down, wasn't it? Trying to think, where have I seen us play? There was a period of time where I wasn't able to go, so sort of 2003, 2004 times. I know I was saving for my first flat, I think, at the time. And I didn't go to places, I didn't go to Middlesbrough the first time around, and I know I haven't been to Newcastle and Sunderland, because I'm sure that was around that time. And I haven't been to West Ham for England. I know there was a game there at Upton Park. Ipswich. There was a game at Ipswich which I didn't go to. But then I'm thinking, right, where have I been? The first game I went to on the road was, I think, Sven's first game. It was Aston Villa. It was at Villa Park. I think we played Spain. I've been to Anfield, I know that. I've been to Anfield a couple of times. I know I went once with England. I sat on the front row of the Kop. That took my breath away, to be fair, that one. Pride Park. I went to Derby. Saw us play Mexico there. And I saw a post on Twitter recently. That was 20 years ago. 20 years ago. And we won 4-0. And where else have I been? White Hart Lane. Yes, as an Arsenal supporter, the only time I ever set foot in White Hart Lane was to see England play Holland. I've got a feeling we lost 2-0, and I can't remember who scored for Holland. But there was a fantastic goal from a Dutch player there. And I remember I sat in the upper tier along one of the sides at Spurs. Just remember thinking it was ever so steep. Old Trafford, been to Old Trafford a couple of times. Of course, there was the famous game where Beckham scored in the last minute, which sent us to the World Cup in 2002. I was there for that. Staying up in Manchester, I went to the Etihad. That was a game... That was a pre-tournament friendly against Turkey, I think. I think we won that one. 3-1, 2-1. Still in that sort of area, Leeds. I remember going up into Leeds a couple of times, Elland Road. I remember seeing us play Italy there a long time ago. Apparently I was on the telly for that one. I remember someone, when I got home or the following day, someone said, "Oh, I saw you on the telly." And of course, recently we played Costa Rica. That was just before the World Cup, wasn't it? Friendly up there. King Power at Leicester. Who did we play at Leicester? I don't know. I remember sitting behind the goal at Leicester. That's going to bug me now. Who did we play at Leicester? Can't remember. And then, of course, most recently, there was Southampton down at St Mary's. That was the last time we were on the road, I think, when we played Kosovo. That was the last time I've been on the road. And so, yeah, this game at Middlesbrough will be the first time I've been up to Middlesbrough, first time I've been up to this neck of the woods following England. Anyway, still got a little bit further to go before we reach Middlesbrough, so yeah, let's crack on. Get there soon. Here I am, Middlesbrough. I can see the Riverside Stadium just in front of me.
You have arrived.
Right, parked up. Quick pint with Sam from It's Coming Home TV. Good to finally meet in person. And now I'm going to take a wander into town, see what I can see. Itching to have one of these Parmo things. To be fair, I'm starving. So, yeah, let's see what I can find. Why is it you can never find something when you want it? Oh, hello. This will do. Sopranos, Parmesans. Hello there. I've never had one before.
You never had one?
No, I'm not.
I'll recommend you a plain one.
Plain one?
Yeah.
Go on in.
Half full. How hungry are you?
Sorry?
How hungry are you?
Well, I've just driven from Hertfordshire, so I'm pretty hungry.
Half full. Half. I did half for you.
Go on half for me.
Huh?
Whatever you think I should have.
So where you come from, mate?
Where?
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 Where's that?
It's a town in Hertfordshire called Ware.
Oh, isn't it? I'm not saying because I just work here, but Tom's and me are nice.
Are they?
You're going to have it with garlic sauce. Make sure you give it to a garlic as well.
You tell me how to have it, mate. I tell you, if it's this good, I'll come back on Sunday. So here it is then. The famous Middlesbrough Parmo. Weighs a ton. It's come in like an 8-inch size pizza box. Good to see it's come with obligatory rabbit food. Bit of garlic sauce and it's open there. Oh my word. Size of that. This is a half. Jeez. I'd never be able to eat a whole one of these. Well, I'll take a picture of this, but there are chips. I know. I'm going to say some sort of chicken under grilled cheese. Oh yeah, that's nice. So I'm actually sitting right by the famous, is it the Tees Transporter Bridge? Obviously quite famous up here in Middlesbrough. Let's whack a bit of that garlic on. I'd never have been able to eat on a big one. So yeah, this is my pre-match meal. This will fill me up for the journey back. Oh, I don't know how many chickens gave up their lives for that Parmo, but it's beaten me. That's massive. That's big, but it's filled me up. And I can walk it off now, and I've come down to where the transporter bridge is. There's a massive blue bridge, cast iron, it looks like. I'm down in the viewing area. This is the best place to get a good view of Teesside's landmark. It says here, it's huge. And you can just see the riverside just through it. The Tees flowing underneath it. Surprisingly, I'm the only one here. Okay. Right, players have arrived. Got my ticket. Let's see what the procedure is to get in. I've got my phone. It shows my lateral flow test negative. Hello, mate. I have. In there. Yes. Yeah. All good. Sorry, yes. So many things, mate. Mask on. Sanitise.
Yeah, just sanitise and then straight in, mate.
Magic. Cheers, mate. Thank you. Sanitise hands. Mask on. Nearly forgot. And that lovely sound of a turnstile. And there we are. I'm in. Oh, it's bright. And there I am. Inside the stadium for the first time since Kosovo away. So it's 10 a.m, Sunday, 6th of June. England face Romania today, again, at the Riverside. Kick-off is at 5. Part of me thinks I must be mad. The other says, this is my duty. Seriously. It does make you think, though, how fortunate I am, or for those of us that do live in the south. Many England fans are going to be doing this journey in reverse over the next few weeks. And indeed have been doing over the past however many years. So I take my hat off to you. So Russell, stop moaning. Let's crack on. Oh, and here we are again. Middlesbrough. Decent drive up. No real issues. I've almost got the same parking space, certainly in the same area. Your usual parking spot, Russell? Yes, well, certainly. So yeah, all right, that's it. Made it here. Let's go for another wander. I know the lay of the land now.
Please be outstanding for the national anthems of England and first Romania. From Parmo, England is your captain, number 11, Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
So that's enough of me and my days out. So here I am now, sat in a rather more comfortable chair rather than a car seat or a faded plastic flip-down seat. All in all, a couple of mediocre games that really didn't give us any indication of how things are going to be for that opener against Croatia on Sunday the 13th. It was a poor Austria side, in my opinion, one who, based on what I saw, I don't think will offer a great deal on the tournament, although perhaps some will say the same of England. And Romania, a bit stubborn. But the England starting 11 against them was almost a B team from days gone by. And to be honest, pre-tournament games don't tend to have much of a bearing on how things are going to pan out. So coming away, wasn't really fussed. Just nice after a long 18 months of not really going anywhere and not seeing many people. That was what I think I'll remember it for. But here to digest it just a little bit more is Aidan Smith from 3lions.net. Aidan, hello there, you all right?
Hi, you're right. How's it going?
Oh, I'm all very well, thank you. Yeah, all good. Excited for the tournament?
Oh, yes. We've waited a bit too long, haven't we?
We have. So one thing I haven't really touched on is the omissions from the squad. The 7 players that were cut seems a bit harsh. Put to one side is a bit harsh. But no, there was 7 players that Gareth decided not to use. Mason Greenwood was kind of made easy for him, wasn't it? And to be honest, I think that he was going to go by the wayside. The other players were James Ward-Prowse, Jesse Lingard, Aaron Ramsdale, Ben Godfrey, Ollie Watkins, and initially Ben White. But that Austria game, Trent Alexander-Arnold had an innocuous injury, a thigh injury that basically saw him pull out, and Ben White has come and taken his place. First of all, do you agree with that? And do you think there was any surprises in who was left out?
Let's go back to the initial 33. I think, so that came out a week before the final 26 was announced, wasn't it?
Yes.
And I was sort of looking at that, and you always go on social media as well, and I was sort of thinking, I was reading so many opinions, and I was thinking, well, this wasn't even the hard decision for Southgate. This is just the first bundle of players. The hard bit is cutting some of this brilliant talent out. I think it was interesting when I first saw the 26 and the 7 players who had obviously been harshly cut, to see that firstly James Ward-Prowse and Jesse Lingard had been cut. And I guess that maybe came from the fact that I was expecting after the March internationals that we would go for 4 at the back. And so I was thinking maybe, you do need that additional midfielder. And it was already looking a bit, sort of bare in the midfield to begin with in the 33. I didn't see many players there who I thought, oh yeah, well, they'll probably get cut. I think, both of those two have pretty good USBs, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was a bit surprised, and then suddenly I thought, okay, we're going for 3 at the back then in the tournament in that case. But it's not what we've seen in the last game. So once again, Southgate is keeping us thinking.
He is, isn't he? The whole Trent Alexander-Arnold, will he, won't he? The media were building that up and then he was in, and then it kind of made it sort of easy for everyone. I mean, it sounds horrible, but he's pulled up with that injury and pulled out of the squad, and Ben White has benefited from that, hasn't he?
Look, it's obviously the first emotion for everyone is going to be sadness for Trent. I think, all of the stuff that he's had to deal with in the last few weeks on the media about them guessing. I mean, Southgate's been absolutely clear that he has not spoken to the media, behind his back. So I think that can be damaging for a player, can't it? And then to hear, okay, you are in, well, that's, why was all of that going on in the newspapers? It's really upsetting for him to be pulling out with an injury, especially so soon before the tournament. I think it was interesting to choose 4 right backs to begin with. I know Trippier can play left back if you need him to. Walker can play as a third centre back. So has Reece James recently. In terms of his replacement, I guess maybe I was half expecting Ward-Prowse to get in, but inwardly I'm quite pleased because I'm looking at the centre back options if we play 4 at the back. And the player who was going to replace Trent at this stage isn't really going to get much game time at this tournament. It's about the balance, and I think it was right to choose Ben White, or he could have gone with Ben Godfrey, but a centre back because if Maguire is injured for longer than we expect him to be, the only real options you've got there is Tyrone Mings, John Stones, who I would assume is a starter, and Connor Cody. Now you kind of need another one just in case. Yeah, I think Ben White impressed in the last 2 games. So yeah, why not? Why not give him some experience?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, well, let's move on to those 2 games, Austria and Romania. What do we glean from it? I mean, I came away thinking, well, a little bit confused. I didn't really know what to think. We saw no Champions League or Europa League finalists. The players from that, Harry Kane only got 3/4 of the game, I think. And yeah, as I say, the Romania game was a bit of a B team.
Yeah, well, I mean, the one real thing that I was really pleased with was to have fans back at last. I know that you were at the games. Do you know how many days it's been since we last had a home crowd?
So the home crowd would have been against Montenegro, November 2019. So, well, there's obviously 365 days in the middle of that. I don't know. My maths is atrocious, but it's got to be 500 and something. I don't know.
Yeah, 566 days. I mean, that is ridiculous when you think about it, isn't it?
It is.
We were so pleased to have them back, even if it was just 10% or whatever.
Yeah, no, it was good to be back. It was a good atmosphere. It was an ideal opportunity to catch up with people as well. And I think the players took a lift from it.
Can't say I was particularly pleased with the overall performances of either game, to be quite honest with you. Sort of looking at the stats from the Austria game, and we had 39% of possession, fewer passes, fewer shots. That's fine. If you want to play in that way, we know that we're able to adapt to playing counter-attacking football. When we talk about counter-attacking football in England, we'll probably always refer back to that Spain win in Seville. But the problem was, for me, was when we got the ball, we didn't start dashing forward with 4 or 5. It was sort of, okay, let's get comfortable again. And I just think you've got to have something to show for your possession. Yeah, that was disappointing. And then to see that the same sort of issue happen again against Romania, we don't want to have a moan, but the problem is these sort of friendlies are a chance to really strike some fear into the group stage opponents. We've got Croatia next week, and I doubt they'll be too fearful, in addition from what we've seen in the last 2 games, to be quite honest with you. Let's look at some of the individual performances. I was really, really interested in how the midfield 2 of Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice was going to work when I saw the lineup. I actually thought it was a really, really good partnership, and I thought they worked brilliantly. I know that Rice at West Ham has a sort of similar role there, where he's got Thomas Souček, who obviously we're going to be playing in the group stage, Czech Republic. But he's got Thomas Souček to go forward and sort of, he knows that Declan Rice is going to be there if it all goes to rubbish in an attack. And I think it was sort of similar there with Jude Bellingham as well.
Yeah, one of the ones that stood out for me was the one that got the goal, Bukayo Saka. I thought he had a fabulous game.
Yeah, I think it was interesting because obviously when when you see the squad that was announced, Saka's never played in a back four for England. But in a game where we've played a back four is what I mean by that. I thought he was pretty good. He adapted quite well. Obviously, he plays a similar sort of role for Arsenal. The goal was good. I think our front four, that's exactly what we need to see this summer, is a front four darting forward as soon as we get the ball. If one of them doesn't put it in, another one will. That's exactly what we want to see. We carved them open brilliantly, and I think Saka was a big part of that.
Let's move on to Austria. A name that we haven't mentioned from that Austria game is one that featured quite heavily in the Romania game, was a certain Jack Grealish, who it's safe to say had a good game against Austria and another good game against Romania. He's a player that gets the crowd on their feet. He's just an exciting player, isn't he? And it's what England are crying out for.
Absolutely. I mean, he's like a new Gascoigne. He's just no mucking around. He's straightforward, forward thinking all the time, and he's always got his head up. If only he can stop being fouled so many times so that we can watch him dribble a few touches further.
Just go further, yeah. But that's one of his things, isn't it? He can draw the player into him, and he can draw the foul, which can be to our advantage, as we saw with the penalty.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that this is the sort of game management that the top teams are able to rely on. It was quite interesting actually to see Jack Grealish play as a sort of central number 10, where we've never really seen him play for England before. We know he can play there, but he's always played off the left for England, often in a front three, which is quite narrow as well. But that was really good. I mean, he's sort of played in that Mason Mount role that he's been playing at for England. I think in both games he impressed. I think he was probably, you'd have to say, the best chance of getting forward in open play and getting a goal. I do think he could shoot a few more times. I think he often gets there and does all the hard work, and then it's sort of, when he offloads the ball, he's a very unselfish player, and that works in his favour a lot of the time. But you're almost crying out for him to pull the trigger just once or twice in a game, and I certainly noticed that against Austria. We could have done with that, because there were a few opportunities where he definitely could have lashed one from outside the box, and who knows what happens when you do that.
Well, yeah, you've got to take chances, haven't you? He's certainly got the crowd going to the point where people were singing his name. England fans were singing his name.
Yeah, he was saying that after the game. He was saying it's lovely to have the fans singing my name. Obviously, this is the first time that he's played in front of fans for England. So easy to get excited about Jack Grealish, and we all are. Let's not take anything away from him. We're all excited by the game that he plays. I do think, though, in tournament football, it's going to be very cagey in the opening stages, probably the first half of most games. So I feel like maybe there is an argument for bringing him on from the bench. He's probably the one player in the squad who can change a game more than any other. So if we are in danger, maybe he's a good one to bring off the bench, because we do have such wealth in those attacking areas. Obviously, I'm just playing devil's advocate. We're going to get a few listeners here who are thinking, "No, don't get this guy on again."
This is interesting, because shortly we're going to try and name a starting 11 for that Croatia game, and you and me may be going down the same avenue here, but we'll find out.
You're building the suspense already, aren't you?
I am, yes. Who else do we have? Dominic Calvert-Lewin, both Jadon Sancho both hit the bar as well. So we had a couple of opportunities in the Romania game. Sam Johnston in goal, although I can't see him taking much part in the tournament. I made a cracking save. So there were some good performances from the players, and especially James Ward-Prowse as well, for a player that hasn't been picked, was doing his best to show Gareth, I should have been picked.
Yeah, well, I mentioned that in my match report that I published, and I was saying, a lot of these players, obviously Southgate's trying to repay them with a bit of game time for having, come to the squad, even though they're not going to be in the final 26. But given that the decision to bring Ben White in had not been made by that point, I mean, they all had still something to play for, didn't they? And James Ward-Prowse did his chances no harm. I mean, obviously now that at the time of recording, we know that Ben White is in the squad, but James Ward-Prowse had a fantastic first half. I think Ben White at centre back was fantastic, actually. Luke Shaw in the first half, I think, had a really good game. He was willing to run forward, and I think that's definitely one of the positions at left back that it doesn't really matter who starts, because they're sort of going to give you a similar thing in Chilwell and Shaw, or even if it's Trippier with a right foot. Yeah, I still wasn't impressed by the performance, and it's sort of annoying for all the possession when your first chance comes from a set piece after half an hour. And that was the Calvert-Lewin header that looped onto the bar. Yeah, maybe we could made a few more chances in the first half, I think.
Well, that was the games, really. There's not a great deal to talk about it, but there is something that I think we do need to touch on. I don't want to spend too long on it, as I've often sort of said before. I don't really like mixing sort of politics and football, but one of the big talking points has been the taking of the knee and the reaction to it at both games. I kind of felt that there would have been some sort of reaction to it in the sort of build-up. We've obviously seen it in the Premier League and various other games, but fans not actually been in stadiums to witness it. And perhaps I didn't think it would be such a big boo, especially in the Austria game. I've got a couple of bits of audio here that I'm going to play. The first game, let me just say, in general, I kind of felt awkward, felt sort of angry and embarrassed, and I guess confused as well, and disgusted. It's such a strange thing that is happening at England games, and we obviously know why they're doing it, and Gareth Southgate has said why they're doing it, but this could be something that affects the players in a negative way if we're effectively booing our own players, aren't we?
Yeah, I think it's just so confusing. I don't really know why it's happening. I mean, there are many things in football that people will boo at, and I never thought that taking the knee would be one of them. I think first and foremost, you need to be careful that all of the players, for whom this is affecting, need to feel comfortable. That has to be the main priority. And if taking the knee helps them to deal with everything that's going on, then keep doing it. I think, Gareth has mentioned that he's been having conversations in the dressing room, in the training ground about this. Do we want to do it? Do we not? It's very democratic in the England setup about doing these sorts of things. They all seem to want to keep doing it, so keep doing it. I think, as long as change is happening at the same time, which I think it is, the wheels are in motion, then let's do everything we can to make these players feel comfortable when they walk onto a football pitch.
My only worry is with the next games being at Wembley, obviously a larger crowd, which you would hope that it would be more larger applause than any boos that may be heard. And obviously I don't want to hear any boos. But my worry from a footballing perspective is if the players are booed and then it affects them in that opening 2-3 minutes, that there's a mistake made or chance missed, and it can just maybe escalate. Football shouldn't be like this at all, should it?
Not at all. It reminds me what you've just said then about the, I don't know if you remember actually, one of the first qualifiers for this tournament, away to Montenegro.
Yes.
And we had quite a few boos for Raheem Sterling. Obviously, once he got the goal, he did his talking with his footballing ability, which I think is the best way to combat it. And he scores the goal and he goes up to celebrate in a way which is reactionary to the hate that he's been getting in the game. And then everyone knows about the Bulgaria game. Yeah, I think, look, this is not something that we should have to be talking about. This should not be a thing. The taking the knee, I think, is, most people would say that it's for a good reason that we're still doing it, that it hasn't died out yet. So, yeah, I mean, I'm all in favour.
Yeah. I mean, that you mentioned those Montenegro and Bulgaria games. As fans, we were united behind the England team there, and now there's a slight division. And I just want to quickly mention a tweet. There's an England fan called Billy. He's been on the podcast before. Billy the Bee is a Brentford fan, and he tweeted, "So, England fan behind me starts to rapidly boo the knee. I turned around and told him his booing was making me feel uncomfortable. Fans all around him told him in no uncertain terms to shut up and asked him to move away from them. We're not with you. He's now gone." And I think there is a danger that we're alienating those that we stand next to in the stands, not just the players as well. So this really needs to stop. The booing needs to stop. The applause needs to continue. And just to emphasise things, as you've mentioned, that Gareth and the team are fully behind it. Here's just something that Gareth said in a recent press conference.
Well, the first thing is that, we are collectively really disappointed that it happened. I think you have to put yourself in the shoes of a young England player about to represent his country. And because we're all trying to support, move for equality, move for supporting our own teammates, some of the experiences they have been through in their lives. Some people decide to boo. I think those people should put themselves in the shoes of those young players and how that must feel. And if that was their children, if they're old enough to have children, how would they feel about their kids being in that sort of situation? So the most important thing for our players is to know that we are totally united on it. We're totally committed to supporting each other, supporting the team. We feel that more than ever, determined to take the knee through this tournament. When it happened immediately before the kickoff, I'd have been confused and I'd have been, I don't know how I would have reacted as a young player. But in essence, people are booing their own team. I don't really understand that. If you don't agree with the situation, then perhaps you don't have to applaud or you don't have to do anything. But to boo your own team is a very strange response in my mind. So I wanted to gauge that the players were happy to continue, and I think there's an acceptance that this gesture, if you like, is waning in its impact because we've been going now for a season. But I think ahead of a European Championship where the games are going around Europe, around the world, that moment just before the kickoff, which will be shown everywhere, will have a significant impact. And if we can affect only a handful of people, then we've made the world better for others. And I think we'll affect more than a handful of people. And for that reason, it's worth us continuing.
Okay, let's go for something a little bit more light-hearted, I guess. The starting 11 against Croatia. Well, the one thing we do know, Harry Maguire is not playing. That's as much as a given, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he's been very clear about that, Gareth, in talking to the media. That will not be an option.
On one hand, that makes it easy for us that we know he's not playing, but it makes it slightly harder because we think, right, who's going to take his place? What formation are we going to go in? But how should we do this? Should we list a team first, or should we go player by player, or how do you want to do this?
Let's go player by player. What about that? Because then we can compare what we've got.
Okay, well, go on then. Let's start in goal.
Oh, you're making me start. Oh. Right, okay. I've gone for Jordan Pickford.
Yeah,
I think it's the obvious choice for me. He's not let England down. There's been a lot talked about in the last 2 years about his club form. I think he's finished the season really, really well. Not so sure about the haircut, if I'm honest. But yeah, he's the safest option for me. Yeah,
no, I agree. We'll have Pickford in goal. Yeah. Well, I guess if we're looking at the back line, we're either talking formation of a 4 at the back or a 3 at the back. So I'll say we're going to play 3 at the back. How do you see it?
Oh, you've scuppered my team straight away. Straight away. I'm going to have to do some faster writing now on my page.
Well, I'll tell you what. My back three would see John Stones central, Carl Walker on the right side of the three, and Tyrone Mings on the left side, with your wing backs of Ben Chilwell on the left and Reece James on the right.
Okay. Did you say Walker, Stones and Mings?
Yes.
Right. If I was going for a back five, that is exactly what I would do. Right. I think there's probably a couple talking points in there. Going for Mings ahead of Connor Cody, I think, is one. And then going for Chilwell ahead of Luke Shaw is probably an even bigger talking point.
Okay.
I would agree with you. I think that would be my five. But a lot of people would go for Cody because of the presence I think that he gives you. All I would say about that is we don't really at that point have any players, if you're going for Cody, Stones and Walker, any players in there who would really look at home on the left side of that back three, which is why I'd go for a left-footed Tyrone Mings.
Yeah.
Regarding the left wing-back area, I've been talking to a lot of people about this position. And again, like I said earlier, for me, it's sort of, it doesn't really matter because both of them will give you a similar sort of outcome. I would go for Chilwell in a back three as a wing-back. I'd also go for him in a back four if I was playing a back four ahead of Luke Shaw. I think there's a couple reasons for that. Ben Chilwell is stronger than he gets credit for. I think also going forward, he's probably better than Luke Shaw. Offers you a bit more pace and a little bit more direct attacking impetus. But then also, I'm looking at whose discipline could let you down. And I think if Luke Shaw's a bit house proud about his defending, and if he gets beaten by an Mbappe or a Dries Mertens or something like that, I could see him lashing out. I really could, and just trying to hack the player down to prevent any kind of embarrassment about his defending. And that gets him a red card, and we've seen this all too many times with England. Maybe I'm thinking too much about it, but I'd go for Ben Chilwell.
Well, I then think, based on Gareth and the way he does things, I think we're going to have Declan Rice sitting in front of those.
Yeah, I think most people would accept that that's going to be the way nowadays. I would very much like to see him in there. I think he's the most obvious choice. You can fall into the trap of being too clever sometimes and trying to think too much about the tactics of player on player. But I mean, Declan Rice is the obvious choice, isn't he? It's just who you have next to him, I think.
And this is where go on. Who would you have then next to him?
Well, if we're going for the back three, I think because you're losing an attacking player, I'd like to see Jude Bellingham in there because I like to, I think when he gets forward, he can link the midfield to the attack quite nicely. But in my initial four at the back formation that I had, I'd go for Phillips next to him, just for a little bit more surety. I don't think Henderson is quite match sharp at the moment. If he was, I would have him. I think he probably the most experience, possibly even the most talent in there. But yeah, I'd probably go Phillips in a back four, Bellingham in a back three. Okay,
and he has sort of paired up Declan Rice with Phillips quite often, and they do seem to work well together. I've gone down a more attacking route, and I've decided that Mason Mount would fit in there, would go in there. Let's supply the front line with a bit of Mason Mount.
I think that would be a wise decision as well. I did, obviously having just written this down very quickly while we've just really quickly changed formation. I did forget about Mason Mount. I would like to see Mason Mount in there. Whether you need those two defensive midfielders in there against Croatia, and then from then on you can play Mason Mount, I don't know. But yeah, I'd be quite happy with Mason Mount. I wouldn't really cry if any of them were alongside Declan Rice, to be honest with you. I think you've got 5 substitutes. We're going to be using one of them in that position. So it doesn't really bother me too much in the Croatia game because I think you need to be a little bit more secure defensively in that game. But Mason Mount's fine. He's got good discipline off the ball as well. He works hard for the team. So yeah. Which
leaves us then with 3 left, a front 3.
Yeah, front 3. Yeah, 2 wingers and a striker.
Yep, and I guess our striker is our captain is Harry Kane.
You what? No, I'm joking. Yeah. No, of course he's in there. Yeah.
So yes, which leaves us with 2. Go on, I'll go for one of them, and I'll say that one of them would be Phil Foden.
I would agree. I'd have him off the right. Yeah. I think his performances for Manchester City this season make it very hard to leave him out. He's almost forced Gareth's hand, really, hasn't he?
Yes. And which go on, and then you're the other one for you.
Okay, this is going to be a bit controversial, but I'm going to give a vote of confidence to Raheem Sterling. I know he's not been on the best form this season, but he's not let England down. His link-up play with Harry Kane is fantastic when he plays for England. He's a teammate of Phil Foden as well. I would have him in there. I think if he can get an early goal in this tournament, that'll set him up.
Yeah. Which then obviously begs the question that everyone is going to ask, where is Jack Grealish?
Where is Jack Grealish indeed? Yes. As I said earlier, I think coming on from the bench, he is allowed more space because I think the game is stretched by that point. Maybe one of the earlier substitutes that we make, if one of our wingers is lagging a bit, I don't know. Maybe we could bring him on and he can just run riot, do whatever the hell he does in that area, and just cause a load of problems, because we know that Croatia's midfield is going to be very defensive indeed. So if he can cause them some issues, keep them bedded in, then that would be fine by me as well. Like we say, it doesn't really matter who starts in the front three. We know that whoever does, they're going to cause problems. Sancho hit the bar with a brilliant effort the other night. Rashford scored the penalty. He got in behind a few times. It's easy to forget those two. Yeah, I would like to see Sterling in there. I really would.
Yeah. One thing I will say, people are going to say, well, where is Grealish? And obviously this is hopefully a 7-game tournament for us, which 7 games are going to come hopefully in the blink of an eye. They're going to be game after game after game fairly quickly. I've been looking back through previous England matches at big tournaments. I don't think it's necessarily important to play these big players in the first game. For example, Jeff Hurst, obviously World Cup hat-trick winner in 1966, didn't play in the opening game against Uruguay. David Platt obviously had a huge impact in 1990, didn't play in the first game against Ireland. Tunisia in 1998, David Beckham didn't play, and Michael Owen only came on with 5 minutes to go. All these players had massive impacts into tournaments later on. So I don't think it's a massive issue. We get hung up on Jack Grealish potentially being out. But then if he could come in and run riot, maybe against Scotland, really let him off the leash, I think that could excite.
Yeah, I must say, if I can just point out our recent run of opening games at major tournaments. Until Tunisia in 2018, our last opening game victory at a major tournament was 2006 against Paraguay, 1-0 an own goal. So, I mean, that wasn't even exactly flattering. But I would be cautious. I think the first game is always the most important game in the group stage, because it sets you off. How different could it have been if we'd drawn against Tunisia and Kane hadn't scored that last-minute goal? I don't know. I'm just playing devil's advocate again. But again, it doesn't matter. We can swap and change throughout the tournament. I think it was different in 2018 because we were such a new and young squad and we didn't really have the depth. I think it was logical to pick the same 11 every game, obviously barring the third group stage game. I think with this tournament, the difference will be we can shuffle. We can shuffle from game to game, depending on the opposition, depending on fitness. I don't think it's too much of a big deal, especially when we look at our attacking options. I mean, such depth in those areas. We haven't even mentioned Sancho getting anywhere near a starting place, whereas you could put him into pretty much any other top international side and he'd be pushing for a starting place. So I don't think you need to keep the same team throughout the tournament. I don't think he'll shuffle it majorly. It will probably just be a couple players from game to game who swap in and out. But yeah, we'll have to see. Again, he's hard to predict, isn't he, Gareth?
He is.
There's not really much point in us going into tactics and everything like that, because our lineups might be false from the outset.
Highly likely, but I guess the one prediction we can try and make is, can we win this opening game?
Well, I was talking to my dad about this the other day, and I was saying, look, I bet I know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be 1-1. with 20 minutes to play, and then it's panic stations, and you've got to get that goal, and you've got to make sure you don't concede at the other end. You've got to make sure you have enough opportunities and chances to get that goal, and that's where the substitutions are going to come in handy. I don't know. You want to say it's going to be a win, don't you? But who knows? I mean, World Cup finalists. I know they've had a lot of retired players since then, but who knows? They can still cause problems.
They can. Well, I'll tell you what. Once the game is done and dusted, should we chat again?
Yes, let's do it. Let's have a review after the Croatia game. Let's hope it's a positive one, please.
Let's hope so. And your plans for threelions.net, you're going to be regularly writing there?
Yeah, we're going to get a match report out for every single game, and we'll see what happens after the tournament. It may be a 3-game tournament, it may be a 7-game tournament. We don't know. So,
as long as it's more than 3, let's hope. Aidan, thank you very much for your time as always, and we'll speak after the Croatia.
Yep, look forward to it.
Thanks to Aidan there, and you can find his match reports at threelions.net. And as I said, we'll be catching up with him after the Croatia game. Now, the plan over the next few weeks is to speak with a few bloggers as the tournament progresses to get a variety of reactions to the games. Thanks as always for listening. The Croatia preview episode is on the way in a couple of days' time. I hope you can join me for it. Euro 2020 is getting ever closer. Don't forget, you can like, subscribe, follow, all that jazz on all the social media channels. You know where they are. So until the next time, cheers.